I know you've been in the red pill space for quite a while and stuff like that. So I mean, what like how long did it take you to kind of formulate these thoughts and stuff? Because like, let me tell you, this book is like, so obviously we've got the classic, you know, we got the classics with Rollo Tomasi and stuff with the rational male and going through the sexual dynamics between men and women. This is taking like a red pill path, but then taking it a little bit further and sort of, I would say, like, it's not like body mastery, but like just taking certain, like, not just the presence, but taking this, like, one thing that we were saying on Rollo Tomasi stream earlier today on the almost at the dragon ship,
yep.
but
that's okay.
That's a good show. It's a good show.
Check me out on the dragon ship too.
But what we were saying is like, you know, the way things are, people are doing so much drama that they're not trying to advance the space anymore.
Right.
And the whole space was created to help men out. And I think we're getting away from that right now, and it's heading towards this whole thing of like, we're just end up creating, you know, bubblegum. I mean, we're creating like gladiatorial games, really.
We really are, and I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, Rollo's work is a seminal work, and you know, some of the other guys put it out there. They connected the dots. They gave us a tool chest. Now, what we do with those tools is up to us. So I don't necessarily point out those tools, although I give you tools and techniques, particularly when it comes to emotional regulation. We definitely go into some serious techniques. They're not the only ones to regulate emotions, but I go into also some research. While you'll live longer if you do these things, it's up to you. But what I'm trying to put out there is, how do I actualize this red pill knowledge in my life to better myself and those around me? How do I project this dominant masculine presence in order to bend reality to benefit myself and those around me? You know, how do I do that? How do I take this tool set and actually use these tools? I don't call them out by the tools, but if you've already looked at this space, I think it'll be really obvious to you where those fit in.
Right.
I'm trying to use examples in particular that don't actually call out those tools, but they give an example of how you might be honorable, how you might keep your word, why you might enter a room a certain way, or why you might interact with a group of people as a transformational leader instead of a servant leader,
right?
Which isn't leadership at all.
What is the difference between those two?
Well, the servant leader is based on some misinterpretations of biblical works, whereas as your leader, you come first as the people or the persons. I serve you,
right?
But I'm still leading you. That is what's broadcast out there today, to be a leader in any group. They do this even in corporate America. You know, you have to serve the employees that you're serving. Well, I call bullshit on that, and I actually use examples in history of why what we need is actually inspirational leadership, or even better is transformational leadership, where you're a leader in such a way that, look, I don't lead by a group consensus, which is really typical of servant leadership. How do you feel about this decision? How do you feel about this decision? How do you feel about this decision? Now, while an inspiration or a transformation leader might consider everybody's opinion,
right,
he'll still make the hard decision that's best for him and the group, because he is the leader. You know, he is going to make the decision. There are leaders in history that had to make decisions that cost people thousands of lives, thousands, many of them their lives. I use an example of Teddy Roosevelt in the Panama Canal. He knew he was willingly sending men to their deaths. There was nothing you could do about it, but we needed it as a nation. Yeah. And if he would have ruled by consensus or as a servant leader, they wouldn't have gone. Look at the impact that the Panama Canal had on the world economy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be something you could identify with, but there's more than just that. But having that transformational leadership, I can show you in business. Have you heard of the Steve Jobs type?
Yep.
He was a transformational leader, disruptive type. Now, have you heard of Elizabeth Holmes?
Oh, yes, I've heard many of her in crypto.
A servant leader. What happened to her company?
Oh, just exactly. A $3 billion fraud.
Exactly. What about Yahoo? What about the CEO of Yahoo in 2012, 2016? I'll tell the story in the book, but it's pretty interesting. She might have wanted to have some dominant masculine men on her staff rather than the emotional fiasco that drove them into the arms of Verizon to keep Yahoo out of bankruptcy.
Right.
So I think you'll find that interesting in the book, being a financial space guy. But I use that as an example, not so much of gender, but of servant leadership versus transformational.
Right. That's really interesting. Now,